This is Kentucky's Voice Radio, covering the latest state and local issues with Tom Fallbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
Good morning and welcome to Kentucky's Voice. I'm Debbie Robbins. I'm your host for today, and I'm so excited to be joined by my wonderful co-host, Bob Scott. Tom Fallbush, he's out today, but no worries. We've got a great show for you guys, and we want to hear your voice today because, like I said, and we say this is Kentucky's Voice. So remember, text us at 502-571-0970 because right after the break, we're going to be joined by a terrific guest. He's one of our state legislators, a wonderful servant leader named Jason Nemus. He is the majority whip, and he represents the 33rd District. And, of course, he is a Republican majority whip. And he's been in the battle for us for well over 10 years on very critical issues. And, you know, as always, there's never a shortage of stuff going on in the world, ever. And I mean, today there is so much going on. But I want to bring the conversation back to something a little closer, really local today, because we're going to focus on an issue that you may not think is a big deal. And I really thought it was a big deal, but not as a big deal as it really is until a couple of nights ago when our guest informed us at the Jefferson County Republican Party meeting how important that this is. And we have got to take this on. You're going to hear about it in just a few minutes. We've got to get ourselves engaged throughout Louisville. We need to be informed, educated. We need to really reach out to our friends really all across the state to get them to vote, talk about this, make it the absolute number one race that you're going to vote for this fall, especially in Jefferson County. And if you haven't been following the local news, but I know many of our listeners, because you're so sharp, you all know everything, you're way ahead of us, you know this is not a minor issue, and I'm talking about Jefferson County Public Schools, and we're facing serious financial trouble. We spend so much, it's ridiculous how much money is spent, that it's roughly $3 billion, which is twice the amount of what our Metro Council budget is annually. And it's got to stop because despite us spending that much money, they're asking right now for more to build new schools, to go back in and repair schools, and our money is just being flushed down the drain. And so Bob and I are really excited that we're going to have Jason, who's going to be with us here very shortly, to talk about this, because if you don't feel very passionate about it, I think after you hear Jason, you're going to be fired up. So I want to hear your voice again today at 502-571-0970. And hey, Bob, how you doing this morning?
I am doing great.
Oh, good. And I know Bob's going to be taking all of your messages and passing them on, 502-571-0970. So, Bob, before we go to the break and before we get Jason on here, is there anything that's really on your mind today? There's so much going on, but anything before we get a break?
We could make a list a mile long, but, you know, it is very critical right now that we as Christians especially, we need to be praying.
Yeah.
You know, for God's direction right now and his mercy in many respects. And we are really nationally and internationally at a tipping point right now. We know everybody knows what's going on over in Iran, but we do need to be praying. You know, the Bible says to pray for those in authority above us, and we need to be praying for our president and our leaders, especially right now. It's absolutely critical.
Yeah, I know. And especially, you know, like I said, you know, politics, I've always heard it's local. And you, on the local level, you've got to vet the people that you're voting for so you can have great leaders that grow to go to the state level where Jason Nemus is right now. And then if Jason wanted to jump to something nationally, we've got to have great national leaders that we believe in their character, who they are, what they stand for, and that they're going to do the right thing for us as voters. So everybody, we're going to be back in a few seconds, and we want you to text in today at 502-571-0970. Bob and I are thrilled that you're here, and we know you're going to love our guest, and we're going to focus in hard this next 30 minutes on what's going on locally. We'll be right back, so don't go away.
Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
School days, dear old golden rule days, reading and writing and arithmetic, taught to the tune of a hickory stick. You were my queen in calico, I was your bashful barefoot beau, and you rode on my sleigh, I love you, Joe, when we were a couple of kids.
Welcome back to Kentucky's Voice, and if you are my age or older, and hopefully everybody's heard that song somewhere along in their lives, we're going to talk about Jefferson County Public Schools today. And I'm very honored, Bob and I are honored to have Jason Nemes, who is our Kentucky House Majority Whip. He represents District 33, which is kind of the Middletown, Anchorage area. I think even some of Oldham County. He'll let you know. He's the father of 3 teenage boys. Wow. And he has a beautiful wife, Leslie, and he's been representing us for at least 13 years. And Jason, you have gone above and beyond on this issue. And I just want to get into it. People need to understand the why. Why is it critical that we elect conservatives on the Jefferson County School Board? Tell us what's been happening, because it's been very hard for everybody to understand. Go. I'm excited.
Well, Debbie, thank you for having me. It's really a delight to be here today and to talk about something that I think is a crucial issue, not only in Jefferson County, but for the whole state. Obviously, everybody has school boards, but 1 in 6 kids in public schools across Kentucky are in JCPS. So I'm going to say a couple of statistics to let you know how important it is, but I'm going to divide it into 2. It's important financially, and it's important substantively or educationally. Financially, our taxes, 63% of your property taxes go to JCPS. If you live in Jefferson County, that's a lot of money. They have a $2.3 billion budget, $23,000 per kid. They went from $1.7 billion to $2.3 billion in 6 years. So the numbers are skyrocketing and they're increasing very rapidly. So we have to get that under control. And even with all that money, they're $188 million in the hole. So they've spent more than they're bringing in. So it's a financial mismanagement you can't even describe how bad it is. But we could justify maybe, or at least be okay with paying that kind of money if we had results. We do not. 1 in 3 of our kids in JCPS are reading on grade level. 1 in 5 of our African-American students are reading on grade level. The science and math scores are much, much worse. We're just not getting it done. So it's absolutely crucial that we get this right. We talk about what's going on in the nation, what's going on in the world, Iran, Washington, D.C., and all that. But the most important thing is that we take care of the home, because if we don't have children and students who will become the leaders of the future, understanding the values and the history that they need to understand, then we're not going to be. America's not going to be able to continue to lead as we have. So this is a massive problem, and it's just getting worse. We do have an opportunity this November, though, which we'll get into with the elections coming up.
Yeah, that is a great big amen, and I know Bob amens it too. And I think what they've all been hearing the scuttlebutt that, in Frankfort, they were saying, well, why don't we split up the district in Jefferson County, which I'm an advocate for. And I know you are and have been, but that didn't go through. But we're all just trying to understand what did happen. I know we're going to go from 7 board members down to 5. So I'm just going to let you go again. And people, please call in or text us at 502-571-0970. This is a chance to ask Jason some difficult questions so we can understand.
Yeah, so I'll say that the changing the school board from 7 to 5 is not a panacea, and it's not the last step. This is what we're doing now. What we needed to do was clean house. We needed to get rid of what we had, the board that we had, and the way to do it was to go from 7 to 5. There was a lawsuit that we won't get into too much of the details, but we went from 7 to 5 to clean house, and now we have all of the school board will be running for election here. My view of the best way forward would be to split the district. There's almost 93,000 students in JCPS. There's 165 schools. Like I said, a $2.3 billion budget. It's just too big. and the interests of various areas of and the needs of various areas in Jefferson differ. And so my district is different than Kevin's district, which is different from our friends in the West End's district, and so forth and so on. And so I think splitting it is the right answer. It would make it much more manageable, and so we could get results that we would need, and also focus on priorities that don't include DEI and silly kind of things, but focus on reading, writing, and arithmetic. So to
No
speak.
kidding. Hey,
Yeah.
my son went to the Highlands Latin School because, in
Right.
my opinion,
Great
I
school.
had it was fabulous, K through 12. I didn't have a choice, and I grew up in Jefferson County Public Schools. But, Bob, he lives in Shelby County. So would you explain to our listeners why, we're one of 120 counties. You were saying the other night that the problem is winning these other counties onto our idea. It's like they don't understand that what happens in Louisville will profoundly affect all of us. So let us know.
So we're state legislators, so we look out for the interests of the entire state, no doubt about that. But we're supposed to look out for our area first. And so in most counties, the school board, the superintendent, is the biggest employer. And so, they care about Louisville. They want Louisville to do better, but they have to make sure that it doesn't harm their interests, and I respect that. And so the law would be, if you just split JCPS, the only county school district, and no other, there's an argument that, I don't know if I agree with it, but there's an argument that I think the Supreme Court has agreed with, that says you have to do more than just Jefferson. So you have to do a second county. So right now the votes aren't there. I'm working toward pushing that forward. But if we can make it work in this way, then that won't be needed. But that's the reason I've not been able to get the votes to split JCPS yet. But this is our opportunity. I want to focus on the positive. We've got the entire county is going to have an election for their school board, and we'll see what we can do here. And then if we can, we've got a chance. There are 5 school districts. 2 of them are conservative. 2 of them are very, very liberal. And then there's one that is kind of in the middle, a little more liberal than conservative, because after all, Louisville's a Democrat town. But if we can get 2, maybe 3 of the 5 seats, we can, transform JCPS and Jefferson County overnight. And it's not just about, we're talking about international and leadership and all that kind of stuff, but it's also 2 other things. One, it's about that individual child. He and she is entitled to a chance in this world. And we know so many of our families are just broken. So many of our kids need a great public school system that's just failing them right now. In addition to that, there's a lot of really good things going on in Louisville right now, but JCPS isn't one of them. It's the biggest drain. I also represent much of Odom and some of Shelby counties, and about 40% of the people who I represent in Odom and Shelby counties are Louisvillians who just got the heck out of JCPS. So it is the biggest problem individually for the students, for the community, and also our role in the state and the world at large. So it's an opportunity. I don't want to overspeak, but I
don't think you're overspeaking, and that's why I so wanted you to come on the show today, because our listeners need to know this, and they need to spread the word. I was so compelled after you spoke 2 nights ago that this is critical, and these are nonpartisan races, and we haven't. And the other thing is, we have a couple of districts where we have a couple of Republicans that are running, but because of the new law you all also helped pass, we can, as parties on both sides, endorse a candidate. And we haven't gotten there yet as a party. But when we do, and I appreciated you saying to the gentleman the other night, whoever we endorse, the other needs to bow out, because it's about the kids, right? It's about the kids.
It's all about the kids. It's not about me. It's not about any individual. It's about the 93,000 students in JCPS, and giving them an opportunity to be educated and be ready to be successful in life. But it's an important thing, but we have an opportunity to get it done. We did pass, you alluded to, before the parties weren't allowed to get involved in nonpartisan races. We are now. And so what we're trying to do, since there's no primary, it's kind of like a jungle, they call it a jungle of election, where there can be, in some districts, there's as many as 6 people running. Goodness. So what we're trying to do is get one horse that the Republicans support, kind of like a primary, and unofficial primary, and then get behind that person. And so that's what we need to do. And I'm glad that the party is going to do that. And I think most of the candidates that we've talked to on the Republican side have agreed to give their best foot forward, put their best foot forward. And if they get the nod, then everybody needs to support them. But if not, then they'll support the other folks.
I think it's fantastic. That is really great. And people too, they're not understanding just the power of the current school board that we've had,
Yeah.
over the property taxes, over them even considering right now this next 300 million or however much money it is to build new schools, et cetera, et cetera. So what are your thoughts on that? What can you shed light? I mean, I know you also know a lot of our Metro councilmen. So if you can
Right.
even speak, Kevin Bratcher was supposed to be with us today, your friend, and he used to serve with you in the legislature, but he's putting out a fire in Fern Creek today where he represents. But if you could kind of speak to other issues for Louisvillians so we understand of those things, because I know you're well aware.
Yep. Well, so much of what we do is downstream of the schools, right? So you have, if we have schools that are getting the job done and educating kids and getting them prepared for the job market and working and values, understand discipline and delay self gratification, all those kinds of things, then we have a better downstream policies, a lot less interface with the criminal justice community, obviously, and we can get more economic development. So a lot of what the council does and what we do at the state legislature is downstream of the school system. We were talking about how powerful the board is, the school board is. They're very powerful. As I said, 63% of your property taxes go to JCPS. And so that's something that especially people in the East End who've had their reassessments this year understand, very personally. Again, we pay too much, period. But we could make a case that we'll sacrifice and we'll pay what we are paying, even though it would be too much, even if we had a good school system. But we would make we'd bite our lip and move through and just go on with it if we had results, which we do not have.
Yeah.
And so the school board has the right to raise your taxes. As they've done a couple years ago, they raised our taxes 9% in 1 year. They're coming back for more, and that's another thing we've done this session.
I'm going to jump in here, if you don't mind. I'm going to jump in because we're going to come back with. We have Jason at least one more segment, and Bob. I hope we've gotten some text in, but. Please don't go away. We want to hear Kentucky's voice. We want to hear what you think. We're thankful that Jason Nemes is with us, and.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Welcome back to Kentucky's Voice, and we are very excited to have Majority Whip Republican Jason Nemes with us today, and he's going to tell us what a whip does, and also he's got a really funny joke that I just want him to tell.
Yeah, I don't know where the term came from, Whip, but my job is to make sure that we have the votes for the policies that are important to the majority. So if there's, House Bill 4 or whatever that we're trying to get passed, I have to go figure out, do we have the votes? If not, if we're close, what's the hang up? What can we do to make changes to help the bill pass and those types of things? And I always I get pretty aggressive about getting the votes on our priorities. The only time I won't is if it's a moral issue or something that's really important to your district. I'll leave the member alone. But if they're, fearful of an election or something like that, it's my job to figure out how to get that vote. So that's what the whip does.
So you whip it up. Okay. All right.
That's right.
My favorite
Get the
joke.
votes.
My favorite joke you told
Oh,
is.
Yeah, so we have overturned a couple hundred vetoes of the governors in the last, I guess, 6-7 years. I can't wait for it to be over. By the way, we've got our floor leader Stephen Rudy has an app on his phone that counts down the days until we have a new governor. So we've overturned hundreds of vetoes, and what I like to say that veto override day is my third favorite day of the year. My favorite day of the year is Easter because the Lord has risen to save our souls. My second favorite day of the year is Christmas because God became man. But my third favorite day of the year is veto override day because, Debbie, what's the only thing better than voting for a good bill once? Voting for it twice.
I love it. That's fantastic.
Happy veto override day is what we always say at the end of session.
I love it. Amen to that. Hey, Bob, do we have any texts that came in?
Yeah, and it's a good question. How about sources we can go to for records and bios on Jefferson County school board candidates? That's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
It is a good question. So there's a lot of organizations that are putting these together. There's Jefferson County Kids Matter is one that people need to be getting involved with.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lady named Jennifer Fato Griffin who runs that. She's a mother of children who graduated from JCPS recently.
And she
amazing. She's amazing. She got really involved around COVID time when we saw all the craziness going on. And she just tries to provide good information for sensible, not only just conservatives, but certainly conservatives, but just sensible people. We want sensible policies. Louisville's a Democrat town. We understand that. That's fine. But let's get our priorities in order. Let's educate our kids. I don't care if they're Republican or Democrat, doggone it. They ought to be able to read well. They ought to be able to have the skills in life where they can be successful. Now, we know that if the more they get educated and so forth, we think the more they'll join us. But whether they're with us or they're on the other party, let's give them an opportunity to thrive. And so any reason they don't succeed is based on their own merit or efforts and their own talents, and not based on a system that's a failure. So I would say, Jennifer Fato Griffin, follow her on Facebook. She's very active in the Jefferson County Kids Matter group. I know the Republican Party will be out trying to educate Republicans on the positions that our candidates take. But those are the two places that I would push people to.
Absolutely.
And I got to follow up with that. You were talking a little bit earlier, if anything, we're circling back about the whole idea of, which to me makes complete sense, dividing up the county into a couple separate ones. It's just, if anything, to try to get a handle on the abstract failure, that these big systems, and it's not just in Jefferson County, it's also over in Fayette County. And,
that's right.
We had just recently, I think it's 2 days ago, the Superintendent Dr. Demetrius Liggins had resigned, and then last I heard, he turned around and did an about face and said, "No, I really haven't resigned." But guess what? They're in millions of dollars of debt, just like Jefferson County. What's it going to take, Jason? You mentioned, and this was very interesting. I didn't know this, but I guess the Supreme Court would be on your side, our side, if we can get two movements going both in Fayette County and Jefferson County. What's it going to take to make that happen?
So there's a couple ways to handle it. I will say our superintendent in Fayette County, their superintendent in Fayette County, I got to give it to him. I'm being bold. I mean, he effectively said, "I'll resign if you pay me for a year without working." So, I mean, okay. So he's bold. I'll give him that. I don't know that if they do that, there'll be massive problems, but because he's run them into a ditch financially as well. So there's two ways to do it. One way is to say that a school district can't be over a certain size. So there might be ways to do it that pass the constitutional muster of this Supreme Court. But the one that's clear would be to involve two counties and not just one. The other way to do it that is legal, it would be more difficult in some ways, is I'm sitting in Covington at the Kentucky Bar Association convention. And up in Northern Kentucky, they have several independent school districts. So one way you could do it is you could allow areas in Jefferson County to create an independent school district. And I know my people in Middletown would do cartwheels to create their own district, as Anchorage already has its own district.
Exactly.
And so that'd be one way to do it.
But don't increase taxes. But don't increase taxes to do that. Yeah.
That's right. The problem with that, it would be really good for my people, no doubt about it. And I'm for it for that reason, no doubt. But it wouldn't help the kids who need it the most.
Yeah.
And let me say this: even if we had people who are competent, and we do not. We're trying to get them, but even if we did, Bob, it's too big. It's too big. 165 schools, $2.3 billion budget. Let me say this: you hear all the time from educators and from people in administration, the most important person in a school building, each school, is a principal, because he or she sets the tone.
Yes, that's right.
And so if you're the superintendent, you can't know 165 principals. You can't manage them. So you have to have you have to have a couple layers of bureaucracy, even to try to figure out what does Middletown Elementary need that's different from Wilder or whatever. So even if they were competent, which they are not, it's too big.
You are so right. These are practical things that I just haven't really thought through. I grew up in Jefferson County Public Schools, and when I think, my little era, my decade was probably the very last one where it was really competent, and I felt like we got a good education. So it's just been heartbreaking. But people, again, they've just got to understand the power structure again. And would you mind explaining, too, you talked about, we have 5 districts now, and we do have one conservative. What's his name? Is it Corley Everett? What's his name?
Taylor. His name is Taylor Everett.
Oh, Taylor
Everett.
Taylor.
Yep, and he's the representative out in from the river to about almost Fern Creek in the East End. So
and we want to reelect him for sure.
We definitely want to reelect him. He's running for reelection. We want to reelect him. In the South, they don't have any current school board members who live there because of the way we drew the lines. And so we have an opportunity to elect a conservative there. And those two groups that I mentioned earlier will tell you the one that we should all get behind as conservatives, and not just conservatives, people who want results, positive results. So
and we're going to make their
and again,
names
this
known.
should not be a Republican-Democrat issue. It should not.
No.
The bottom line is the results that we're now seeing are an abject failure, and we need to get that turned around for who?
That's right.
The importance for our kids.
That's right.
That's what all of our attention needs to be focused on.
It's about the 3 R's.
That's it.
3 R's.
That's right.
Reading,
and when you
writing,
talk to
yes.
So there were 124 teachers that retired early in 2022. 23 of them in my district. They retired early.
Goodness.
And so I called the ones in my district, and what they told me was, I said, I thought I was going to hear, well, not enough pay. That's not what I heard. What I heard was lack of support from central office. So I want to give truth, which is what we've been given, and I want to give grace as well. The classroom teachers are doing it. They're doing the best they can do with what they've been given. They're hustling. They care about
their hands are tied.
Yeah, my wife is a teacher in middle school. She says my kids. She talks. They love these kids. We need to empower classroom teachers to get the job done. And so that's another thing that I always say. People say split. I always use the word right size. Right size the districts is what we need to do, because it enables the person from the superintendent all the way down to the janitor to focus on the number of kids they can focus on. We don't need to think about 93,000 kids. That job's impossible. But you can think about it when you've got a dozen schools or whatever. So we need to that I think is the long-term answer. We have an opportunity today though this year to get it right, to get competent, good people who care about and love on these kids in our school board.
Absolutely. And then you as an attorney and then as a legislator, I look forward to the next session where you all will change a law. I like the 2 options you said, that you could say by law the districts need to be smaller, and I forgot the other thing you said. But we're going to make sure every name is known, and I know you're doing your part. We are so deeply grateful for you taking time out this morning to be with us, Jason. Thank you so, so much. And please tell your wife I just admire her so much. Brilliant school teacher. What an awesome lady she must be. So everybody, come back, everybody. And Jason, thanks again for being with us.
We'll
be right back. Thank you.
Yep.
to Kentucky's Voice Radio online at kyvoice.org.
Welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. We sure appreciated Representative Jason Nemes, District 33, the Republican whip, for joining us. And we know a lot of texts have come in. So, hey, Bob, what's going on in your end?
It's a real shame Jason could not be here, because we literally, as he was going off, and he is at an important conference that he has to do in line. You mentioned that he's an attorney. He's at a meeting up in Northern Kentucky, keeping his attorney credentials good and legal credentials good, and, gaining information on that. But here are some of the questions that came in. I think we can banner these about, Debbie, because it's, it just absolutely boggles my mind when I think of the budget. You're talking just Louisville alone, what do you say, 2.1 billion, 2.3 billion?
No, yeah, it's 3 billion. It's because it's
That's
double.
Insane.
Yeah, well, Jim.
That's insane.
Yeah, Jim Waters, our colleague here, he put a Facebook story out 2 days ago telling us that it's double the Metro Council budget. So theirs is like 1 billion or 1.2. So this is over 3 billion.
And yet, this is what gets me. They're still in the hole.
And they're still in the hole. And
millions of dollars. It's not like 100,000 here or there, but we're talking millions of dollars. Come on. This is the most common sense thing that needs to be done.
I think it's a fraud issue. I think it's a fraud issue, and that's a whole other topic. But Tony Piagentini, one of our other Metro councilmen, stood up the other night, and he said that that I think, I don't have the numbers right, so maybe if somebody's listening might know, but pretty much 2/3 of our Metro Council budget goes to our school system. Somebody explain that, because that means we don't have much money going for roads and bridges and all of the other issues in Jefferson County. So anyway, I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
No, it's unbelievable, and it's sickening. It's disgusting. Something has got to get done about it. And you know what? I'm getting tired, and I'm sure most of our listeners are getting tired of saying something's got to be done about it. Well, guess what? Something has got to be done about it, and now's the time, to step forward. And that's where I was encouraged. I do believe that Representative Nemes and his colleagues are understanding this and ready to move forward with some things. With regard to me, the most short-term solution is to go ahead and do what they need to do to put some constraints on the two biggest school districts in our state, and bring them into some kind of accountability, in that whole process. But anyway. Well,
I know you're going to get to text, but also, again, we're going to educate our listeners between now and November on this Jefferson County Public School Board. I'm telling you, we've got to get 3 of the 5. You get 3 of the 5, we've got some power. Things will get done.
Yeah, no kidding.
But we'll let people know names. We'll let them know.
It should not be, again, Democrat, Republican, and technically it's not. But we need to make certain that we're getting people in there that are going to do something about this graft and waste. Right. And like you say, in many cases, fraud that's going on. That needs to happen. Right. All right.
Yes. What you got?
Here's some of the text. And one, they said cut staff positions. Okay. I agree with that to a point. That absolutely needs to happen, especially
at the level at the board.
Yes. Stop busing or give rebates on property taxes if you do not use the bus. That's been around in Louisville for a millennium. Ever since they began doing busing here.
1973, I think. Actually, the Supreme Court overturned it, but these little clever, evil lawyers found ways to work around that. Where we have these quote magnet schools. It's just outrageous. We need neighborhood schools. So
another comment: you need a retired Marine Corps sergeant or sergeants to handle the discipline problems.
Amen.
I can't fully disagree with that either. The best teacher and disciplinarian I had was a retired Marine for physical fitness weight training.
Yeah.
I had a couple of those kind of guys in my upbringing, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't turn out any the worse for that, and it was good,
Mm-hmm.
having folks like that, and then they say we need school board members who have run budgets in the
Yeah.
military, private or public sectors. And again, those are all great comments. I fully agree with every single comment, that was made there.
I do too.
You're
And I
able,
will say this, we've got people that have signed up to run. So now, as a party, I know the Jefferson County Republican Party, that they're vetting the candidates that are Republican. And
yeah,
we're going to throw our hat in the ring behind one of those people. I happen to be on that executive board. And we're going to throw our hat in. We're going to vet them well. But we have the hand we're dealt with, whoever has signed up to do that. But we do have one guy, the
yeah, that's
Everett,
right.
who's really great. We got to reelect him and then get at least two of the other districts. So we're going to do our very best, and we're going to educate our listeners. But they're right. But listen, people, the future's coming. So start thinking about it. Do
Yeah,
you want to
yeah.
run? Do you want to run? I mean, can you? Would you? And and also just and call your legislators. Let Jason know you agree with him today, that you want them to come up with solutions to split up our district here. You're right.
You bring up an interesting point, Debbie, because that is very critical. From having done lobbying, your phone call really does. We talked about it a million times on this program, but
Right.
it really makes a big difference,
It
with
does.
regard to your representative or state senator. These are all critical things. And you might think, well, that's not going to make that big deal. Well, it does,
It
and
does.
they listen to that. And more comments. Okay, if I share a
No,
few
keep
more
going,
comments.
please.
Uh,
Oh yeah.
will
This is
Metro
about
Louisville's
Kentucky. Yeah.
JCPS bother to explore how the Mississippi miracle that has boosted education for their students, and we know Mississippi was once like
Yeah.
us.
In the
They have
bottom.
completely. They're now one of the top states for education. When will the people of Jefferson County be allowed to vote on splitting the district? We, the people, pay for the diabolical JCPS system. Um,
Well, like Jason said, I guess I don't know. We might have to do some research as to whether or not we could have a referendum on the ballot. That's a good thing. But if you do that, you've got to collect signatures. I don't know the process, but a great citizen out there listening, find out. That's how these referendums get on the ballot. We could do that. But then the other option was, Jason said, the next session, let him know loud and clear that you want
Yes.
them to legally find out through the Supreme Court of Kentucky. Can we say, can we make it a law that our districts can only be so big and only have so many
Yes.
schools per district? I think it would be great because there's lots of parts of Louisville. There's Fern Creek, there's Chaytown, there's Middletown, there's Hikes Point, St. Matthews, there's Anchorage, which is an independent school district. But my only fear with that is I don't want you'd have to pay Anchorage or pay more taxes. I know my husband and I used to live in that Middletown area. We were right across the street from, quote, Anchorage, where they pay a 10,000, 11,000 additional tax. We don't need any more taxes in Kentucky. So it's kind
No.
of, we want to make it clear. We want to
That's
make it
right.
clear to our legislators. Yeah.
No, and we're all on board with that. And another question: there are many liberal Democrat teachers in JCPS system. They are bought and paid for by the teachers union, which again, that's at the heart of what I think, if not the main problem, it is a big problem.
Yeah.
That's controlling things. And basically, they're not out, generally speaking, after the best interest of your child.
Right.
They're out after what's going to be best for their political party, if you will.
Right. There's no room for indoctrination. And that's another thing that maybe, I don't know what we could do in the way of law to say we want reading, writing, arithmetic, great literature.
Well, and tying
like at
in with
the
that,
Latin
let me say
school,
this real
these
quick,
other
Debbie, but-
yes.
Yeah, because it ties in. It's the same person asking the question. They said, I know this to be a fact, as one principal had her removed from this, talking about this liberal fifth grade teacher
Yeah.
from her history class as she was preaching her political views in class.
Ooh, she
If
got her
I can do,
removed?
she was removed, and that's
Good.
nice to hear. If I can do undercover work for the benefit of students, so can anyone that cares. So that is a
Way to
parent
go.
that was
Thank you, parent.
getting
Thank you.
engaged and
Yeah.
making a change. And then here's another one that kind of goes more towards us. How about seniors or anyone that had no children be released from JCPS taxes? Good luck with that. I'll say that much because Debbie and I have had our kids.
Yes.
And even though we both ended up putting our kids at great expense to us personally, because
Yes.
we're not, neither one of us are wealthy, but
Right.
in private schools. But it was our choice to do that, and
I praise God that I could. But what was amazing is just they teach the fundamentals and they leave it to parents to teach the character. Now they expect character, they expect good discipline where my child went to school. But I'm sorry, the indoctrination has got to stop. I didn't know one bit
Yes.
what my teachers believed when I was growing
That's
up.
right.
I
That's
didn't
right.
know. I didn't know if they
That's
were
right.
Christian, Jewish, Catholic, atheist, but they all had moral character, which
Yeah,
was just
that's right.
basically 10 commandments based, common decency, respect. Those things are not hard to teach, but you've got to find people that represent those before you even hire them. But these secret agendas, I've even had other retired teachers. One told me she worked at a school where the principal, vice principal, the whole world, it was a total shrine to Barack Obama. And I mean, nothing against our presidents, but it was an unnatural shrine. Everywhere you
Yeah.
went, it was just
Yeah.
preached in the wrong way. And it just,
Yes.
it drove her completely crazy. So,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
that's good. And one final question. They ask, make a comment, eliminates school extra programs and make them plead their cases to reauthorize it before the new board. So that, again,
Like
great.
what do they mean by that? I wonder. What extra
I'm not
program?
real 100% sure.
Maybe they'll text
other-
back in. Tell us what you're thinking.
Yeah,
502-571-0970. Yeah, what did you mean
Yes.
by that? So we can talk
Yeah.
about it. Yeah. Okay, well, gosh, this is local, Bob. This starts at the root, doesn't it? And, this is where we are. We have got to get it right at the root with our kids.
It's
But,
100% the root, and
yes.
it is 100% local.
I know. And we have so much going on in the world. We've got just a little bit more time left with you all today. Don't go away. We're going to be right back and finish strong today.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Welcome back to Kentucky's Voice, and thank you all so much for participating today with us. My goodness, it's awesome to hear your thoughts and what you want to talk about. And again, Bob and I were just talking during the break how important that just getting to starting at the root. It's the core. I made me think of an illustration, Bob. Somebody was telling me about Israel. I don't mean to be bringing them up, but they just talked about if you look at Israel from the sky and you look down on, the form of it, it's in the form of a hand. It's like a hand with fingers. And they say Israel's in the palm of God's hands. And I think that's just kind of how we are as humans. We're in the hand of God. And we've, it's from our own hearts, the beginning right here at our hearts, our belief in God, our studying our lives on moral values and Christian conservatism so that we can make a difference. So it's so important that we start here locally, first of all, in the family, in the home, with a traditional family, as parents. But then when we send our kids to a school, by golly, I expect that to be an extension because I'm expecting those people that I've put charge over my children to be decent humans, but we have gotten so far away from just basic morality. It just saddens my heart. What do you say about that? What do you think?
Yeah, no, that's true. It's at the heart of it, at the core of it. I remember when I was growing up, and I attended schools. I was born in West Virginia, but raised in Kentucky, and I always said I came to Kentucky because West Virginia is almost heaven because it's right next to Kentucky, but I was blessed,
Yes.
in both states. I had very similar type of experiences, all public schools. I never went to a private school,
Me either.
where it was getting back to the basics. And that's, I'm looking at the text right now that are still coming in.
Oh, great.
And that's what they're talking about is just getting back. You said it at the top of the show, reading, writing, and arithmetic,
Yes.
and getting those. And that was one of the nice things about Highland Latin School, putting a little plug for them, because my kids went there for a period of time
Yes.
before we moved to Shelby County. But they were very big on those things. I mean,
Well, and the
extremely big.
founder, I don't mean to interrupt, but remember the founder, Cheryl Lowe? She was a
Yeah.
Jefferson County public school teacher. She had just had enough. That's why she started the Latin school. Because
Yeah.
she said this enough, and she taught science and math, and she had 2 sons and saw the deficiencies there, and it broke her heart. And I'm so thankful for her and other schools in our county. It's a shame that we even had to go to that, where we have to have all these private schools, but the Latin school is the basics. It's the core. And I want to share one more story, not to brag on my son because it wasn't him. It's the education he got. I want to brag on them. I remember taking him to Washington, D.C., Bob, at age 12. And we had a private tour of the Capitol. And we had a docent that was just wonderful. But my little boy, 12-year-old son, wasn't really little, but to me is, he looked up in that beautiful rotunda and he saw all those paintings. He saw the Roman army. He read all the Latin and translated it for the docent and also explained all the scenes on the rotunda. I thought the docent was going to fall out. He said, "Where in the world did this child learn this?" And I told him, I said, we had to, because of our education system in Louisville, we had to find a place that we could educate our son where he would get the basics, the foundational things that Abraham Lincoln got, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, all these great leaders that came before. And we're deeply grateful to that. But that's the reason why. And he was excited about telling the guy about it. It was great. So anyway, back to you. I'm sorry, but I just wanted people to know that.
No,
It's the basics.
that's right. I'm trying to remember the name of the poem, but there was a poem. I think it was the 8th grade. They all had to learn Horatio.
Oh, yeah,
at the
Horatius
Bridge.
at the Bridge in the 6th grade.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yes.
6th grade.
You're
yeah.
right.
And folks, let me tell you, this wasn't a short little poem. I mean,
72 stanzas.
I could have never done it. I'll put
No.
it that way. But it was an expectation that the school had, and they believed in their children. And you know what? let's circle back, and I think that's at the heart of this whole discussion we've had
Yeah.
today. It can happen in a private school setting. It can happen, obviously, in a public school setting. You just got to put the teachers, and I would say the vast
Mhm.
majority of teachers, I know many of them that are teaching in the public school system. They're dear friends. They
Yes.
care, and they want to be supported, and
They
they
would,
want to
and
see change happen.
exactly. And they would love to pour into these kids those wonderful values and things. And I was remembering, Horatius at the Bridge, just so people understand that it wasn't a punishment to the kids. It was a challenge in sixth grade. They earned a medal. They
Well,
had they had to do.
let me say this: when
Yeah,
they were
yeah,
going
yeah,
through it, they
yeah.
felt like it was a
I know
punishment.
they thought it was a punishment. I know.
And it became a punishment to the parents too.
I
Because you're right
know, I
there
know, it
with
was
them.
hilarious, but they taught them so many things of saying you've got to schedule your own memorization schedule. But they had to do 24 minimum, and then it's a 23-minute recitation if you did it. Isn't that amazing?
Think about that:
23 minutes. And then also,
Insane.
but you know why she did it? Because Winston Churchill did it.
Right.
He
That's
did it
right.
at 12 years old, and that's why. And all that to say, Abraham Lincoln did that. George Washington, they all memorized scripture and poetry and things like that in their education. And that's one of the 5 pillars of education, including music and math. And so the fundamentals, and it can be such a joy. It can be. And, but as parents, I just want to encourage you out there. If you're grandparents, encourage your people, your kids that are parents to demand it. Demand excellence, demand basics. And I'm not talking about kids that might have learning differences or learning disabilities. I
Yeah,
don't want to
of
call it
course.
that. We're not talking about that. I'm talking about strengthening the character of our kids. And by reading those classics and learning scripture, my child, the first scripture he learned was that Colossians 3:23 that he said out loud at school about do everything you do by working for the Lord and not for men. So he learned that principle early on. I'm working for the Lord, not for a man. And,
And at the end of the day, as Christians, that's absolutely spot on. We did, and I think this kind of surmises the conversation that we've had today. And again, thanks everybody for contributing to this, because that's why
yes.
we're called Kentucky's Voice. We want to be an outlet for your thoughts and feelings that are absolutely critical to making a difference in our community, our state, and in our nation. But this text came in. We don't have to have ever been a parent to be involved and correct the sham JCPS is.
Amen.
And I agree. We also pay JCPS taxes, which you do,
Yep.
and if you live in any county in this state, guess what? Whether you like it or not, you're paying, state taxes that go towards, or local taxes that go towards your local school system.
And
So
yeah, another story I'm going to throw in here during COVID. I went to the school board meeting, Bob, as my child was in private school, but I am a product of Jefferson County Public Schools. But I went to the school board meeting, the masked meeting. It was absolutely outrageous, ridiculous. And I even challenged at that time, it was Marty Polio. And I just told him, I just said, this is outrageous. I'm ashamed of you all. I mean, he was up there, he'd pull his mask off. He could take his off when he wanted to talk, but we couldn't. But that our little children were masked up and being smothered to death and germs on their faces. This woman,
well, I'll be honest,
I about lost my
they
mind.
tried that at my child's private Christian school, and
we said, no.
um,
Well, they didn't do it at the Latin
I
school.
said, you're not wearing one, and he got asked, in class by the teacher, and in no way of being disrespectful, but said, the teacher said, hey, why aren't you wearing a mask today? And he very eloquently, and I don't know how eloquent he was, but he said, because my dad and mom told me I was not to wear a mask. And the teacher said, oh, okay. I mean, it wasn't like there was any major pushback.
Right.
But
Right.
again, that little trickle starts with us.
Yes.
And that's why we have to, all of us, every
Yep.
single one of you has to be willing and able to stand up when you see some kind of oppression or tyranny that goes completely outside our Constitution. And folks, I got a clue for you. There's more to come.
I know.
So stay tuned and get ready. You've got to be ready, willing, and able to stand up and stand for the truth and say, no, we're not going to put up with this. Much like what we're now seeing happening over in Ireland and Europe right now.
Right.
They are getting, praise God, to a point where they're fed up.
Right.
And again, we're talking about primarily
Illegal immigration.
That's happening there, but we know it's happened here.
Yes.
And we see the fraud that it's created, up in Minnesota and other parts of our country.
Ohio, everywhere.
By Somalians and others, and I just want to pick on one people group.
Right.
But the bottom line is if we're going to make a difference, we all got to unite together. United we stand, divided we fall, and speak up and call out graft and chaos and say, no, we got to get back to the basic principles of our Constitution.
Absolutely. And that, again, I want to say it's June, the gift of June, beautiful summertime. But people, get in your minds, the fall's coming. We've got to vote for conservatives. You've got to find out who these school board candidates are. We're going to let you know on this show very clearly. You got to spread the word. And right now, you need to call Senator McConnell's office again and say, pass the reconciliation bill the president has put on the table again that only is going to require 51 votes. He has also attached the Save America Act to it, which is phenomenal. But the Save America Act is only the beginning, having to have proof of citizenship and a photo ID to vote. But I want to make sure that we don't have frauds out there providing fake photo IDs and fake,
yes,
proof of citizenship.
Amen. And
there's so
and
much.
one final comment that I think
Yes.
sums up our entire show that came in. And,
Okay.
And again, thank you for your comments today. Debbie and I will be back here tomorrow, so we want you to stay tuned for tomorrow's show. But they said 100% true. Students are our future, all caps.
Absolutely.
And that's it.
Yes.
That's who we're fighting for. We're fighting for our next generation.
Yes, and that's what Jason Nemus, our majority whip for the Kentucky State Legislature, he fired me up Tuesday night. That's what he said to everyone. It isn't about us, people. It's about our kids. It's about our future. And I'm so grateful to him. And Bob and I are grateful to all of you for joining us today, for everything you've had to say. Please come back tomorrow. We look forward to being with you. This is Kentucky's Voice. You are Kentucky's Voice. We're very grateful.